Hey, what's up everybody? This is Bart coming to you from TST Industries in Florida. I have a new episode of TST Garage in the pipe for you. Here we have the 2022 Grom behind me. In this video, we'll be showing you how to install the new TST Industries WORX Airbox cover on this particular bike. It's a high performance part. It is very simple to install. It doesn't cost very much. It does have some specifics to it that I'd like to go over in detail, but this is an installation video, so we'll leave the details to a separate video that we'll be posting and linking in the description of this video. For the moment, I'll just brief over a couple of the nuances so that you guys know what we're getting into here, and then we'll jump over, start wrenching, and get this sucker on, and then give it a start, let you hear it. Our part here, as you can see, is very, very similar to the OEM components. So it is very, very simple to install. It is very inexpensive. You pay for it one time and then it's perpetually yours. You also get an improved intake sound. You slap one of these things on, you rev it up, and it just sounds so throaty. Now that's not really a performance gain, but some guys like that sound. A lot of us put exhausts on bikes just to hear that extra roar. This thing will really improve the intake sound right in the front here. It's very pleasing. The installation takes the turning of 12 screws, replacing those screws with the new unit, and that's it. Does it require a new aftermarket filter? No, it doesn't. You get exactly the same results with the stock filter as you would with an aftermarket filter. Replacing just the airbox cover on your bike will not leave you without the fairing mounts that are on the airbox itself and some of the components around it. Should you change your intake to an aftermarket intake with that tube and a K&N cone, that actually does remove all those mounts and leaves your fairings all wobbly, and then you got to figure out what to do about that. Another nuance here is this actually looks pretty OEM. We've made sure to texture match the components around where this will mount, and it actually looks like an OEM made it. So for those of you guys that want to remain undetectable, this is probably the best choice for you. All right guys, I think I'm done yapping here. I'm amped to get on the bike and start wrenching. Let's pick up some tools, let's go. If your Grom is equipped with the TST Industries garnish washers, step one will involve using a 3mm Allen to remove these. If you still have the OEM setup, the only difference in the steps will be using a 5mm Allen instead of the 3. We'll grab our 3mm Allen and unscrew the center screws from the washers. I don't like to leave these things hanging, so I will break them out right away. In step two, we will need to remove several Phillips head screws from under here. That works better when we move the bars to the right side to gain a little bit more access here. There are two screws located here and here. I'm using an L-shaped Phillips, but you can actually fit a pretty decent sized stubby in here. After this L-shaped guy, I'm just going to use a small bit. Those are just my tools of choice. You could use whatever. At this point, our panel is free to come off. There are several clips clipping this outer fairing to the center. I'm going to start by getting our hands under the bottom here and slowly moving up. And they'll just pop out. You just want to make sure you don't flex them too much because you may strain some of these sliding locks, and this will keep them safe. Let's put that to the side and inspect what we have here. For best viewing angles, I would have to remove a lot of these components so that I can show you guys exactly what's happening without obstruction. But that will do a disservice to you guys because we're trying to do this in a minimally invasive fashion. So what I'm going to do is illustrate that and maybe flex these plastics a little bit more than they should be flexed, just to show you what I'm doing. Just be a little bit more gentle than I am during this process, and that way you won't put white creases into this plastic. All right, we have several more Phillips fasteners here, here, and here. Those will need to come out, and that frees this panel. Third one is right here. As you can see, now this is pretty free. Now we have 4 screws here, 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 and right through here. You see this cutout? The Phillips screwdriver will go through here, and you can access this screw on the lid. These are basically these 4 screws. Once we loosen them, the OEM airbox cover comes off. So let's take these screws out. Make sure you keep track of your fasteners. They are different than the other ones from this panel. You want to make sure that you replace the correct fasteners into the correct spot. Now, the actual OEM lid is loose. And just lift away on this outer panel. Take that out. It's very likely that the filter is going to come off with it. This is a good time to inspect your filter element. Make sure that it's still clean. If it's not clean and you have the means of cleaning it, do that or replace it with a fresh one. So now that the lid is off, I'm going to inspect if the gasket possibly came off with it. I've seen the gasket sometimes come off with the lid and sometimes stay within the airbox. And in fact, here we have that gasket. It stayed in. Should that gasket come out on you, it just looks like rubber piping. There we go. So this is what it looks like. Just make sure it's jammed back in there. I like to have all the OEM seals in place before I go back in and replace our airbox cover. All right, so now we'll be putting the WORX cover back on. The green element goes to the outside, mesh to the inside. There's only one way to fit it, and it fits like a glove because we designed it to replace the OEM component with OEM geometry at the interface. So I'll just pop right back in. Make sure you locate it. Make sure everything snaps together and it's actually in properly, like a cap. You can see there are bosses that protrude from the actual airbox that have to go into these locations where the screws go in. Once you pop that in and it's not moving around on you, that's when you can start engaging the screws back in. If you do not locate the airbox cover on the airbox before tightening it, you may actually strain something if it doesn't align properly. So be patient and careful and we'll have really good success here. I'm going to bottom this out without tightening it. That will keep it in place for me as I turn all the other screws in. That way I don't have to hold it. All right, now I have all the screws in. So I'm actually going to take this down to full tightness. These are self-threading screws that we are tightening into a polypropylene airbox. Let's not over tighten these. Let's go down to full bottom out and give it maybe like a 10% extra, and that engages the threads against the threads already cut into that airbox and keeps it nice and tight and won't vibrate out on you. Now we'll replace the 3 fasteners that hold this outer panel to the airbox. Once again, I like to get all my screws seated before I tighten anything. These are shoulder screws. They do have little shoulders that protrude from the screw head. I want to make sure that as you get it into location, you move the plastic around so that shoulder locates within the actual screw well that the plastic provides. If you just clamp it against the plastic, sometimes you'll just deform the plastic. That's not good. All right, that's good to go. Let's replace the outer panel. I start from the top and start engaging all the clips. So here I have this overflow tube that is protruding just a little too far. It should be located behind this area on the fairing. I'm gonna engage that first actually, and then bring the top in alignment, and then go around pressing all these guys in. And now it's good to go. I'm gonna check that tube. We are good here, good to go. All right, let's start replacing some of these garnish washers. And lastly, we will be replacing the 2 Phillips head screws that go between the inner fairing here and the outer. And that's pretty much it. All right, let's spark this thing up and hear what it sounds like. I don't want to fumigate myself in the studio here too much, so I'm going to shut it down. This bike does have a Yosh full exhaust on it, so that will add to the sound, but immediately I hear the difference in the intake sound. It's growly, it's deeper. You guys will be able to notice that when you put your ear to it out in the wild. Anyway, I know you guys are going to have a whole bunch of questions. This video is not really meant to answer those questions. That is why we will link a separate video that will go deeply into some of the details of how this was developed and what it does and some of the other nuances that we want to convey to you guys. Please check out the video that is linked in the description of this video. For now, I just want to thank you for watching the installation portion. If you like what you see, check out tstindustries.com. We have these parts ready for purchase. We also have a whole host of other components for this bike and other bikes you may have in your stable. Thank you for watching. Ride safe. See you later.